On the afternoon of April 26, 2024, a large and violent tornado moved through the Omaha metropolitan area, striking the communities of Waterloo, Elkhorn, Bennington, Blair, and Nebraska. And in this video, we're going to take a look as to what the meteorological standpoint was leading up to the tornado, and as well as what the amount of extensive damage it has caused. This is the Elkhorn, Nebraska tornado documentary. On the morning of April 26, 2024, the Storm Prediction Center issued an enhanced risk for severe weather stretching to parts of northeastern Kansas, southeastern Nebraska, southwest Iowa, and northeast Missouri for a 10 hatched risk for tornadoes, as well as a 15% damaging wind risk and a 30% hatched risk for very large hail. Now let's take a look at the meteorological standpoint, what led up to the Elkhorn EF4 tornado. So basically this is the 500 millibar winds, and as you can see, we have enough of that. We have upwards of 50 to 60 knots of 500 millibar wind speeds in the upper levels, so that is very good. Now, the 500 millibar winds at 18Z did increase in the area of interest of where the EF4 tornado occurred, which is near Elkhorn. And we do have enough of that as well. I mean, we've got upwards of 50 knots in the upper levels as well there. Now, the 850 millibar winds at 18Z, which were very, very high in this area. We were upwards of 45, 50 knots in the lower levels, which is insane to think about. But as we take a look at the moisture content here at 18Z, this is dew points. We've got a very, a big time surge of dew points in the general area of where the tornado occurred. We got upwards of 65, even closing in on 70-degree dew points. Now, I do want to take a look at a sounding that was taken near Lincoln, Nebraska at 18Z, or excuse me, 19Z rather. And as you can see, we've got a very pronounced photograph there, and as well as nice curving in the lower levels of the atmosphere. And I also want to note our SRH values were not over the top. They were not screaming volatile per se, but it just goes to show this SRH, it was at like 200 in lower levels. So this is enough for, you know, tornadoes to take advantage of lower level SRH around 200 meters squared per second squared and go off like that. When you have support in the upper levels, you gotta have support in the lower levels, and this is exactly what happened. As well, we have, you know, upwards of 2,000 CAPE, which is, you know, enough. CAPE wasn't astronomical per se, but this sounding goes to show that it doesn't take a volatile environment for to produce, you know, violent tornadoes like this. As you know, you get a boundary interaction as well as the environment in general. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot, you know, to produce a violent tornado like Elkhorn. Now, let's take a look at a MCD that was issued for the general region where we were expecting at least a few tornadoes. So that's interesting to see. But here's the tornado watch shortly after they issued the mesoscale discussion. And the tornado watch didn't seem like it was high-end at all. They only called for a few tornadoes likely with a couple of intense tornadoes possible. So that is very interesting thing to see. Now, let's take a look at the radar presentation of the supercell. And as you can see, what a classic kind of supercell here. Very strong inflow noted here, as well as a very classic RFD signature, although the RFD wasn't as pronounced. However, that inflow is crazy, and we've seen VROT as high as like 100, which is very insane. But yeah, that's the radar presentation of the Elkhorn supercell. I also want to note something here. It was also getting hit by a nudger at this radar frame, so it is very interesting to see. Also, I want to note that on reflectivity, there was a little pink dot shown up that is called a reflectivity debris ball, showing basically so much debris that reflectivity reflected it back on radar. The reason why I wanted to point this out to you guys is that seeing a reflectivity debris ball on reflectivity is something that you do not see. That only occurs with the most violent tornadoes per radar presentation. But that, like I said, that just goes to show how violent of a tornado this was based on a radar presentation. Here is more radar frames taken from the supercell. Now this radar frame was taken at 3:40 p.m. Central, which shows the reflectivity presentation of the supercell, and as you could see, there is also a reflectivity debris ball as shown in the picture. Now, let's take a look at the radar scan for the velocity signature taken at 3:40 as well, which shows a very tight, compact area of spin, which showing on your screen is your velocity signature, which shows a very strong couplet. Now, as we flip over here to take a look at the correlation coefficient here at 3:40 p.m. Central Time, you could see a debris signature. Also, a special thank you to Roman, the weather guy, for sending me these photos. Go subscribe to his channel and his link will be down in the description. Now let's get right back into today's video. At approximately 2:30 p.m. Central Time, the tornado would first touch down just northeast of Lincoln, Nebraska. This tornado would derail many train cars just south of I-80 in Lincoln, Nebraska. This warehouse was significantly damaged by this tornado, in which where it has gotten its high-end EF3 rating. The tornado crossed I-80 and soon weakened, doing very little damage as it was weakening near Waverly, Nebraska. Shortly after its weakening process, the tornado would soon lift just north of Waverly, Nebraska. However, this supercell wasn't done dropping tornadoes. In fact, it was only getting started. The supercell would drop its most significant tornado yet at approximately 3:30 p.m. Central Time. The tornado would first touch down just south of West Q Road near the Platte River, only causing minor damage to trees as well as to some homes. As the tornado crossed the intersection of Grover Street and South 252nd Street, it strengthened to mid-EF2 strength, where it ripped the roof off of a home. The tornado maintained EF2 strength as it crossed Nebraska Highway 92 near the intersection of US 275, where it damaged numerous homes as well as it hit an acreage. After the tornado crossed US Highway 275, the tornado damaged multiple homes and outbuildings at EF1 to EF2 intensity. At around 3:45 p.m. Central Time, the National Weather Service of Omaha Valley, Nebraska would issue a rare tornado emergency for Elkhorn and Bennington in Nebraska. The tornado then crossed the Elkhorn River just southeast of Waterloo, only causing EF0 to EF1 damage to several trees. The tornado began to enter Elkhorn around the intersection of 216th Street and Nebraska State Highway 64. The tornado rapidly strengthened at violent intensity, leveling a home along North 216th Street in western Elkhorn. The photo that will appear in a moment may be disturbing to some viewers. This home was swept off its foundation, giving a low-end EF4 damage indicator with winds of 170 miles per hour. The tornado then damaged a Heritage Nursery landscaping business before moving into the Ramblewood subdivision, where it damaged or destroyed numerous homes. Many homes were left almost completely flattened, and other homes collapsed after being shifted off their foundations. As the tornado continued moving northeast, the tornado again became violent as it struck multiple homes along Fowler Street and Larimore Avenue. Two homes along Larimore Avenue that were newly built and newly anchored with nails and anchor bolts to a sill plate were leveled and swept away. As the tornado began to exit the Ramblewood subdivision, the tornado grew to almost a mile wide and crossed Nebraska State Highway 31, snapping numerous wooden and steel poles as well as snapping numerous trees along Highway 31. As the tornado continued moving northeastward, the tornado intensified to a high-end EF2 intensity as it damaged structures along Newport Landing Lake to the west of Bennington. Homes in this area suffered extensive damage with roofs removed and as well as exterior walls knocked down along the lake. After crossing the Newport Landing Lake in Nebraska State Highway 36, the tornado continued to snap trees and power lines and damage outbuildings at EF1 intensity. The tornado crossed into Washington County, causing EF2 damage to homes and damaging or destroying outbuildings well east of Washington. After the tornado crossed Nebraska State Highway 133, the tornado rapidly intensified and became violent for the third time as it impacted a small neighborhood just south of Blair, Nebraska. Several homes were completely destroyed, including some that were swept away. These homes were either unanchored or poorly anchored, and the damage was rated high-end EF3 with winds of 165 miles per hour. However, one of the swept away homes received a low-end EF4 rating with winds of 170 miles per hour. The tornado then weakened, causing only EF0 to EF1 damage to homes and trees as it approached US Highway 75 in Nebraska. The tornado weakened as it crossed the Missouri River into Iowa, producing EF0 damage to trees as it moved northeastward. At 4:31 p.m. Central Time, the tornado lifted just south of Modale, Iowa. This tornado was on the ground for over an hour, and the tornado had traveled over 30 miles while being on the ground. And the tornado reached a width of 1,900 yards, which is just over a mile wide. Thankfully, no deaths occurred from this tornado. However, 4 people were injured. On April 29, 2024, the National Weather Service in Omaha, Nebraska released their preliminary damage survey results for the Elkhorn tornado. Initially, the Elkhorn tornado received a high-end EF3 rating, with wind speeds estimated at 165 miles per hour. In July of 2024, the National Weather Service completed substantial reanalysis of the Elkhorn tornado, including forensic analysis on the damage. This new data showed that a few small areas of low-end EF4 damage indicators did occur in the Elkhorn tornado, with estimated wind speeds at 170 miles per hour. The upgrade to EF4 made this the first violent tornado to occur in the state of Nebraska since June 16, 2014. The Elkhorn tornado caused over $8 million in damages. Omaha City Council approved redirecting $100,000 from the annual Neighborhood Grants Program to help Elkhorn families after the April 26, 2024 tornado outbreak. This was one of many other relief efforts after the Elkhorn tornado. But that's going to wrap it up in this video, everyone. Hope you guys liked the tornado documentary video. Also, I've been getting a lot of requests on what tornado I should document next. You guys came up with so many tornadoes. If you guys are new to the channel, consider subscribing to the channel, as it does help me out a lot. I cannot thank you guys enough for the support recently. But yeah, that's going to do it for this video, and I will see you all in the next piece of content I put out there. Peace.